Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's Torah In Ten. This week's portion is called Shemeni, which means eighth, and it's going to be in Leviticus, starting in Leviticus 9, verse 1, going all the way to chapter 11, verse 47. And what we're seeing here is we're seeing that the priesthood is now up and running. We've got everything going as far as that's concerned. And what's interesting is, in all Hebrew numbers, they have a meaning to them. So it's interesting that this one is labeled eighth. And so when you think about, one in the Hebrew means unity, two means body, and spirit, body and spirit. Six means man, and seven, the perfect plan of God. Well, the number eight means new beginning. So when you're, referring to the eighth day of the week, let's say, you're talking about the first day of the new week. 7 days is a complete week, and on the eighth day, there's a new beginning. So something brand new is happening here. The other thing that we see too is Leviticus 11 outlines God's instructions to man as far as what is considered food, what is considered not food, pretty much fuel for the human body. And so it kind of goes into, what type of animals would be considered for consumption and what's not for consumption. And talk about, when you get to this and you share this with someone, talk about, being set apart or standing out, the look on someone's face when you say, no to bacon or no to pepperoni on your pizza or no to lobster, with a steak. Of course, you wouldn't get that much of a reaction if you said, no, I'm, a vegetarian or a vegan. They'd be like, okay. But it's interesting when you tell them that you're wanting to, eat biblically, then here comes the eye roll, right? But it's interesting, too, because secular scientists have actually given reports and provided data that supports why God probably said this. Just looking at, let's say a pig and what it eats and what its diet consists of, that should be enough to kind of tell you right there. They hardly sweat. They store a lot of toxins in their fat due to their digestive system and how it works. They carry a variety of parasites in their bodies and inside their meat. According to WHO, the World Health Organization, of course, everybody's hearing about WHO right now amid this Chinese virus, but they say pork and hot dogs, bacon, ham, and sausage, they cause cancer. They're flat out saying it, that they do cause cancer. The International Agency for Research on Cancer actually classifies processed meat as a carcinogen, something that causes cancer. Think about this. I just mentioned that we're in the midst of this coronavirus, this Chinese virus. Think about the swine flu, the influenza flu of 1918, 1919, both from pigs. The H1N1 and the H3N2 are swine flu viruses as well. The Wuhan China virus is from a bat. All of those unclean animals. So, God designed this body, and what I take from this is, and I think it's pretty applicable, God designed this body that I'm riding around in, and I'm going to, kind of refer to what his owner manual has to say. I think, unfortunately, most Christians, like they do with their own car's owner manual, they throw it in the glove box and never look at it. So, but how do we apply this spiritually? So in our New Testament portion, our Brit Hadashah, 2 Corinthians 6, 14 through 7, verse 1, 2 Corinthians chapter 6, 14, all the way through chapter 7, verse 1. It's talking about, we're not to yoke ourselves with unbelievers. How can righteousness and lawlessness be partners? Don't have any formal close ties to them. And what fellowship does light have with darkness? What do believers have in common with unbelievers? Picking back up in verse 17, it says, go out from the midst, separate yourselves. Don't even touch what is unclean. Paul is actually quoting Isaiah 52:11 here when he says this. 2 Corinthians 7 verse 1 says, let us purify ourselves from everything that can defile either our body or our spirit. Let's strive to be completely holy out of reference of God. Paul is talking about both physically, as far as what we physically eat and set up and what's clean and unclean, but also spiritually. Bottom line is we're to be holy as the Lord is holy. We are now his. We are his bondservants. We've been freed from our slavery, from sin and death. We're bought with a price, so we should honor the Lord with our actions and not show contempt by willfully doing our own thing. And this goes way beyond foods we consume, right? I mean, let me make this clear too. Obeying all these commandments that we're talking about here in the Torah and what we're talking about going forward in Leviticus, or eating clean versus unclean eating, that doesn't make us holy. Only God makes us holy. It's our job to remain in that state. It's not because we avoid it that we become holy. One of the things I say is that someone that thinks, hey, I'm going to avoid eating pork and shellfish because I'm holier than thou, and they had that mindset, they've got it twisted. It's the wrong way. There's a pride issue going on there, which is an abomination to the Lord as well. But the commandments that we keep do not make us holy. All one can attempt to do is really just keep ourselves clean, pure, and holy before the Lord by honoring Him with our lifestyles. It's a heart issue. We're to be in the world and not of it. Here's an example of how that works when you're sharing your faith and what I found. Remember that eye roll I mentioned earlier, about turning down bacon? Well, you get some of that same reaction from the world when you mention the name of Jesus Christ, Yeshua Messiah. You can say God, and no one flinches at that because they can mean any other God that's out there. They don't know what there's so many different gods out there that people, claim to worship. It doesn't really, kind of rubs off. It just kind of flows right off and nothing. But I tell you what, when I've ever had this experience, when I, if I actually get specific and don't just say God loosely, you watch the flinching and the awkwardness when I say the name of Jesus. When I say the name of Jesus. So, again, what we're going to take away is we want to be set apart. We don't want to be unclean before the Lord. He's the one that cleans us up and makes us holy, but we should honor Him with our lifestyle. And be ready to share the gospel, and share and be bold with how we share and acknowledge who His name is, who is our God. It's not just some lowercase g. We save the one and true only God, Yeshua Messiah, Jesus Christ. And you need to tell the world, there's only one name that you can call on for salvation, that you have to put your faith and trust in Him. And it's in Him alone that they're going to be found righteous in His sight come Judgment Day. Tell the world that, we've got some free time during this quarantine period. Tell the world about this free gift and the price that was paid, not by anyone's efforts or works, but by the grace from God only. I hope this has blessed you. May the Lord bless you and keep you. In the name of Jesus Christ, Yeshua Messiah, shalom.